Welcome back. Today we have our second fantasy football video for 2022. Last time we did the breakouts and league winners. If you missed that one, go ahead and check it out. But today we're going to have sleepers, guys going outside the top 100 that could be really good values and potentially help you win your league. Hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Leave a like, it always helps out, and let's get into it. Number one's going to be Lazard, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. He right now is the Packers wide receiver 1. Devontae Adams last year had 169 targets, and he missed one game, by the way, but he's now off the team, and that is 169 targets that has to go elsewhere. Aaron Rodgers has already been quoted saying Lazard is the wide receiver 1. Those are his words, not mine, so you love hearing that. And in his final 5 games last year, Lazard started to play much better. He had 3 games over 70 yards and had 5 touchdowns in that 5-game span, so he's done it before. If you put his last 5 games over a full 17-game season, he would finish with 71 catches, just under 1,000 yards, and 17 touchdowns, which is probably not sustainable, but still, you drop that down to like 10 touchdowns, and that's still a good season. And that was only on 95 targets. I'm assuming Lazard, assuming he stays healthy this year as the wide receiver 1, is going to see probably over 110 targets at least. We know Rodgers historically does not trust his rookies too much, so for the Romeo Doubs hype and the Christian Watson hype, it may have to wait a year. And Green Bay may rely more on their defense and running the ball with Jones and Dillon, but it's Aaron Rodgers. He's going to throw the ball this year. We know that. They're going to have a wide receiver 1, and Lazard can definitely be that guy. Next, we have Chris Olave of the New Orleans Saints. His ADP is 115 overall, and I'm a huge fan of his talent. If I really cared enough to go make rankings for my guys coming out the draft last year, Chris Olave would have been my wide receiver 1. The Saints gave up a second, a third, and a 4th round pick just to move up 5 spots to get this guy, so they're gonna use him. Now, Michael Thomas is the guy getting most hype for the Saints this year because he's coming back for the first time since 2020. The guy's not played a majority of a season since COVID hit. Like, that's how long it's been for Michael Thomas to really play a full season, since 2019. And Michael Thomas already tweaked his hamstring, so I have questions if this guy can stay healthy the entire season. If you take Michael Thomas out of the equation for like half the year, let's say it's the second half of the year, and there's no Michael Thomas, I mean, Chris Olave is going to have a great second half. They did add Jarvis Landry, who's going to be a pain in the ass. I already know that, but this is not the Miami Dolphins version of Jarvis Landry that's going to see 160 targets this year. And I like Jameis Winston. He proved last year, I know it's a different offense technically, but he proved he can play in this Saints offense last year prior to the injury. Olave just knows how to get open. He's a smooth route runner. He has very reliable hands, and he can make plays deep. Like, we've seen in practice him catching some deep balls. He has enough breakaway speed to make big plays. It may take him a month or 2 months to really start to be a consistent fantasy contributor, but I think at some point this year, Chris Olave has the potential to maybe be a league winner if things go right in the second half of the year. Next, we have a running back, Darrell Henderson Jr. of the Los Angeles Rams, going 122 overall. Now, Henderson was an RB1. He was the RB12 through the first 12 weeks of last year before getting injured, and he missed a game too, so that was even more impressive. Cam Akers is coming off the torn Achilles, as we all know, but he himself is already dealing with some type of soft tissue injury. So we all know what people say. Running backs have never came back from an Achilles tear and have been the same guy they were in the past. Now, Cam Akers is very young. He could be an outlier type guy, but based on how things have gone in the past, when running backs tear their Achilles, they usually don't return to full form. Their head coach, Sean McVay, has already came out and said they have 2 starting running backs on this team, talking about Henderson and Akers. Now, historically, Sean McVay likes to use one featured back, so I am a little hesitant to believe that entirely, but at the same time, this is a different situation. This is not Sean McVay that had Todd Gurley, who was the best running back in football at that time, or even last year when Akers went down and Henderson was the main guy. This is a different case. You have one guy coming off an Achilles tear, and another guy in Henderson last year that proved he can be a good starting running back when given the opportunity. And if Cam Akers is inefficient because he hasn't looked as good apparently as he did before the injury. This was even last year when he came back for the playoffs. He was averaging like below 3 yards a carry. It was not looking good. And if Cam Akers really struggles next year and is averaging 2.9 yards per carry, they're not going to keep him in there for 20 plus touches per game. And if Akers ever got re-injured, which is definitely a possibility, and Henderson has the backfield to himself, this could be another top 15 running back type guy. Henderson himself averages 4.5 yards per carry for his career. That's a good number. He's not like the greatest athlete in the world. I don't really get too impressed when I'm watching him, but still, at the same time, having a Rams starting running back is very good. And he's only 25, 35, and he's in a contract year. I like seeing those things in the prime of his career, playing for the money. So Darrell Henderson, especially if Cam Akers is out at some point this year, he could be a really solid fantasy option. Next, we have our first tight end. It's Cole Kmet of the Chicago Bears, going number 129 overall. And Cole Kmet is the second option in the Bears passing game. You want to get guys that are top 2 options in their passing offense, and Cole Kmet is definitely one of those guys. Now, it's not the best offense, I will say that. It's not like we're picking a guy from the Chargers or the Bills. That would be much better. But still, the Chicago Bears are an NFL team. They're going to have possessions in football games this year. There's going to be opportunities for Cole Kmet. Last year, Kmet had a 17% target share in this Bears offense, which is not terrible for a second-year tight end. From weeks 12 to 18 last year, he averaged about 4.5 catches per game and 45 yards per game. You put that over a full season, that would be 75 catches on the year and over 750 yards. He's a guy that I especially love in PPR leagues. Cole Kmet in standard leagues is not very exciting. He's not a guy who's going to catch many touchdowns, I don't think, and especially with this Bears offense not being very high powered, to put it nicely, I would rather take my shot on like Robert Tonyan in a standard league. But if you're playing in like a half PPR league or a regular PPR league especially, Cole Kmet's going to be a solid option. Cole Kmet was a second-round pick in the real NFL draft just a couple years ago, and he's athletic. On Player Profiler, he is 65th percentile or better in speed, burst, and catch radius, and 40 times, so that is a good athlete. Most tight ends, as we know, take a few years to break out. It's a tough position to transition to in the NFL, and Cole Kmet's now in year 3 with a much bigger opportunity, so he might have a season of like 80 catches, 800 yards, hopefully a handful of touchdowns. That's going to be useful. That's going to be a top 10 tight end, and hopefully you can start that guy consistently every single week. Next, we have a wide receiver, Joshua Palmer of the Los Angeles Chargers. His ADP is 169 overall. Now, let's be honest, getting a piece of this Chargers offense in fantasy football is a good thing. They're a very high-powered offense. They run a ton of plays, and they pass the ball a lot. And if I told you you can get the Chargers wide receiver 3 for nothing, basically, I think that's a shot worth taking. The Chargers last year under Brandon Staley ran 11 personnel, which is 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. They ran that 76% of the time, which was top half in the NFL. Palmer has been getting hyped up this offseason, especially this past few weeks. He's been putting in the work, and he's often one of the last guys playing catch with Justin Herbert after practice. In his last preseason game, he had 3 catches for 75 yards. He caught an 18-yard screen pass for a touchdown. It was a nice play by him. He's 6'1", 215, and he's entering year 2. Last year in the final 5 games, sometimes we see these trends of like, oh, this guy really broke out the final month and a half, which is why I listed off some Cole Kmet stats in the second half and Alan Lazard. Sometimes you could see these breakouts coming from how they played the season prior. But last year in Palmer's final 5 games, he had 3 games over 40 yards and scored a touchdown in all 3 of those games. Now, Palmer can easily become a top 30 wide receiver at worst if Mike Williams or Keenan Allen go down with injury. And Keenan Allen definitely had his injury history more in the past. Mike Williams is consistently banged up, and if he misses time, like let's say Mike Williams is out for 2 to 4 weeks or something, Palmer can step in and probably see 7-8 targets a game and be a useful starter. Next, we have another tight end, David Njoku, tight end for the Cleveland Browns. His ADP is number 158 overall, and Njoku got paid this offseason. 4 years, $56 million. I think this contract, of all the contracts given out this offseason, shocked me the most. I mean, Christian Kirk's was ridiculous as well, but seeing him get paid this much, I was like, what the hell? I was expecting like a 1-year prove-a-deal type thing for David Njoku, but they gave him a 4-year, $56 million deal. Austin Hooper, who Njoku's had to share time with the last few years, is now in Tennessee, so no more sharing time there for Njoku. Jacoby Brissett, who's going to be the quarterback most likely for more than half of the year with Deshaun Watson being out till like week 12, he loves throwing to the tight end position. In 2019 with the Colts, when Brissett was their starter, he targeted Eric Ebron and Jack Doyle 30% of the time, and he loved throwing to Mike Gesicki on the Dolphins last year when he started for Tua. Njoku is an elite athlete and still 26 years old in the prime of his career. On Player Profiler, he's 80th percentile or better in all of their athletic scores. He's 6'4", 246, awesome athlete. This guy can really be a breakout tight end. Now, the unfortunate part for Njoku's career so far is that his highest touchdown total in a season is 4. He's done that 3 separate times. So in order for him to be like a top 8 guy and really become one of the best tight ends in fantasy football, he's going to have more than 4 freaking touchdowns. Hopefully a guy at his size can get somewhere around 8, 9, 7. Like, I'll take that. If he can get that and add like 65, 70 catches and get 600 to 800 receiving yards, you're looking at a tight end 1. So Njoku could be a guy that can be a consistent starter if things go right for him. Next we have Kirk Cousins, quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. ADP is 111 overall, and I get it. It sucks, it's boring, nobody wants to draft Kirk Cousins. But I do think he can be a top 10 quarterback in 2022. With Kevin O'Connell as the head coach and the Vikings moving away from that run-heavy type offense and moving to a pass-heavy offense, that's going to create more opportunities and volume for Kirk Cousins. O'Connell was also Cousins' quarterback coach back in Washington in 2017, so these guys know each other, which is nice. And last season, Cousins was quietly the quarterback number 11. And this season in 2022, he enters a year with more passing attempts and weapons of Justin Jefferson, who might be the wide receiver 1 this year, a healthy Adam Thielen, you have KJ Osborne, who's a big play guy, Dalvin Cook in the receiving game, and Irv Smith back at tight end. That's a very good offense. Last year, Kirk had 4,200 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, but this year, passing the ball more, I could see it being like 4,800 yards and 40 plus touchdowns. If he does that, he should be a top 8 quarterback. He can have like a Matthew Stafford type year from last year. So yeah, I will not be leaving my draft thrilled if Kirk Cousins is my quarterback 1, but I do think he will be consistent over the year. He'll have his passing touchdowns, and he won't kill you at quarterback. That's definitely going to be a good thing. Next, we have another quarterback, Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears, ADP number 127 overall. With Fields, you're just betting on the athlete, you're betting on a potential breakout, and the rushing upside. We know the Bears' weapons and offensive line especially are not good, but what if Justin Fields rushes for over 700 yards and 5+ rushing touchdowns? And with the Bears being bad, they will be trailing in most games, there will be garbage time in the fourth quarter, there will be prevent defense, and you will see times this year, multiple times, where Justin Fields scores this touchdown with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter to cut the deficit to 21 points. Like, we're going to see times like that, and that all counts for fantasy football. It'll be like Matt Ryan on the Falcons the past few years, like he's been the garbage time god. I could see Justin Fields being the garbage time god in 2022. He does have Darnell Mooney, he does have Cole Kmet, who you guys know I like, and 2 good running backs in David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. So they should be able to move the ball at some capacity, it just won't be a high-powered offense. And as we know, quarterbacks that can run the ball, they are a cheat code in fantasy football. If Justin Fields does reach that 700-yard rushing mark and has 5+ rushing touchdowns, he's going to be a top 12 quarterback. In my opinion, he's worth taking over guys like Tua Tagovailoa, who doesn't have the highest ceiling in my opinion. I know he has the weapons now, but I just don't really believe in Tua. And a guy like Ryan Tannehill with Derrick Henry back and A.J. Brown gone. I don't see the point in taking those guys over Justin Fields with his upside. Now, my last 2 guys are 2 backup running backs that could be good handcuffs if you're in deeper leagues, and of course, if their starters go down, they can be really good options. Those guys are Chris Evans of the Cincinnati Bengals and Eno Benjamin of the Arizona Cardinals. Now, if you're in like a 10 or a 12 team league, you probably can't draft these guys unless you have like a big ass bench of like 10 people. But if you're in like a 14, 16, 18, 20 team league or something, these guys are probably worth stashing. Chris Evans was a 6th round pick for the Bengals in 2021. He's a good athlete. I'm surprised he fell that far. He is 24. Maybe it was like an age thing, I don't know. But his burst score is in the 95th percentile and his agility score is in the 92nd percentile. He's been compared to Damian Harris. If something ever happened to Joe Mixon, Chris Evans can step in and take that role for sure. They have Samaje Perine, but I think they want to make Perine the pass catching type guy. So if Joe Mixon goes down, they might just slide Chris Evans into the Joe Mixon role and keep Perine as the 3rd down pass catcher and 2-minute guy. And there's still a chance that Chris Evans could be the 3rd down back to start the season. It's no guarantee that Perine's going to be the 3rd down back, but I would assume that right now based on what we saw last year. But it's a good offense, and if Joe Mixon goes down or even Perine goes down or something like that, even both guys, Chris Evans will be looked at as like a top 15 running back. So he's worth stashing if you have a bunch of roster spots. Now for Eno Benjamin, he was a 7th round pick in 2021's draft and is now in year 2 and seems very motivated. Benjamin has gotten a lot of praise from his head coach Cliff Kingsbury, and Kingsbury went on record saying this: I would have never expected him to come this far, which is not what you want to hear from your head coach, but he has complimented the hell out of Eno Benjamin this year for kind of turning his career around in a way. Apparently Benjamin in the past was too nonchalant, didn't take, studying seriously and all that type of stuff, but now he's taking his career very seriously, and Cliff Kingsbury, it's definitely catching his eye. The Cardinals this offseason, they signed Darrell Williams. He was the former backup with the Chiefs. I'm sure you guys remember him, but there are some rumors going around that Darrell Williams might not even make the roster. So if that's the case and Eno Benjamin is the RB2 behind James Conner, that can be a great handcuff. We know James Conner's health history is not the best, and James Conner is going to be the RB1 this year. He will be seeing a lot of touches, so there is a chance of injury for James Conner. He's never played a full season in his career. The Cardinals offense is good for running backs, and their head coach is hyping up Eno Benjamin. Once again, if you're in a bigger league, I would take a shot on him. So that will do it. We're halfway through the fantasy videos. I want to do 2 more for you guys. I want to do bold predictions and guys I would avoid for this fantasy football season. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys next time.